Welcome to Royal Daily Report, the only news source brave enough to investigate the stories mainstream media refuses to touch. I'm your host, and tonight we bring you an investigation by Tom Bauer that has uncovered one of the biggest mysteries in modern royal history. This involves documents, timelines, and medical records that simply don't add up. This is Royal Daily Report, where we dig for the truth. Tom Bauer just discovered one of the most puzzling age mysteries in modern royal history. In his words, the version of Meghan the public was introduced to the sparkling Hollywood actress turned duchess wasn't quite the same woman the records hinted at. Somewhere between Los Angeles and London, the years didn't add up. And when Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle, started speaking about his daughter's early life, the picture became even stranger. This wasn't gossip. It wasn't internet chatter. It was the uncomfortable truth emerging from people who actually knew her. From a father who raised her to journalists who traced her paper trail. Because if these documents are right, Meghan Markle is not 44. She might actually be several years older than the world was told. And if that's true, everything about her royal journey changes. When most fathers talk about their daughters, there's warmth in their words. But when Thomas Markle talks about Meghan, there's something heavier, like a man trying to correct history before it's too late. He remembers a childhood filled with theater, ambition, and determination. Yet, when Meghan became famous, he noticed something that didn't match. The stories she told publicly about her timeline, when she graduated, when she started acting, even how old she was when she got her first big role, didn't fit the memory he carried as her father. Thomas wasn't shouting from rooftops. He was speaking slowly, carefully, almost as if he was reciting testimony. He hinted that Meghan wasn't as young as the palace presented her to be, that her official birth year might have been adjusted, and those words, coming from a father, landed differently. They weren't the kind you could dismiss as rumor. They came from someone who'd once held her baby photos in his hands, someone who remembered dates and milestones, not from tabloids, but from real life. When he mentioned that the Meghan he raised didn't quite match the timeline the palace promoted, it cracked open the first fracture in her royal image. And that's where the paper trail begins. Make sure to subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now. We're bringing you the investigations others won't touch. March 1997. Teenagers across America are flipping through 17 magazine, the go-to glossy for high school girls dreaming of college careers and stardom. Buried deep inside that issue on page 90, a small list of names appears. One of them reads, Meghan Markle, age 21. At first, it seems like nothing. Just another entry in a long list of aspiring faces. But when you stop and do the math, it becomes astonishing. If Meghan was truly born on August 4, 1981, she would have been 15 years old in March 1997. Not 21. That's a 6-year difference. Not a typo, not a rounding error. A full 60-year gap between the official record and what was printed in a nationally distributed magazine. Now, this isn't some online rumor. This is ink on paper. A document published, sold, and archived decades before Meghan ever became a duchess. You can still flip to that page today, and the number is there staring back. If that magazine was right, then the foundation of her story, her schooling, her Hollywood timeline, her fresh-faced actress image, all shift by years. It would mean Meghan wasn't a 20-something chasing her dream when she began acting. She was closer to 30. Already a woman rewriting her place in an industry obsessed with youth. The mystery deepens because if the 17 record is true, the Meghan we've seen in headlines might be 6 years older than the palace, the press, and even her own biography claim. And here's where things start to twist even deeper. Because if the timeline doesn't fit, if her real age doesn't match the records, then how exactly was she able to birth Archie and Lilibet? Think about it. The weddings, the babies, the life she built with Prince Harry. We're getting to that shortly. But first, let's take a closer look at how this double timeline began. Side by side, the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. Version 1, the official record. Meghan Markle, born August 4, 1981, Los Angeles, California. That makes her 44 years old in 2025. This version appears everywhere in palace files, online biographies, and royal press statements. It's written like stone. Version 2, the magazine record, Meghan Markle, 21 in 1997. That shifts her birth year to around 1975 or 1976, meaning she'd be approaching 50 today. That's not a harmless detail. That's a 6-year rewrite of identity. Think about what that means. It changes how old she was when she graduated, when she first landed acting roles, and even when she met Prince Harry. If she was born in the mid-70s, she wasn't a rising 36-year-old actress when she married into the royal family. She was a woman in her early 40s, stepping into one of the world's most scrutinized institutions. This is where the ink versus pencil metaphor truly matters. Ink is permanent, like a birth certificate. Pencil can be erased, redrawn, adjusted, like an image. The world was handed the ink version of Meghan's story, but that 17 magazine record that was pencil faint, forgotten, yet still visible if you look close enough. And so between a father's testimony, an old magazine's archive, and a 6-year gap that refuses to disappear, the mystery begins to form, not as gossip, but as a puzzle of public records, each whispering that the Duchess of Sussex might have more years behind her than anyone realized. But if that's true, then where else have the records changed? And who made sure they did? Don't forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report. Hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our investigations. Now, let's talk about the one thing royal PR can't edit: the pregnancies. In a new expose, Tom Bauer alleged that Meghan Markle's carefully polished story surrounding Archie's birth wasn't just inconsistent, it was constructed, and for the first time, he wasn't standing alone. According to a Portland hospital insider, someone who worked inside those very halls, the official version of events, as told in Prince Harry's Spare, didn't align with how things really work behind those closed doors. Harry's book painted a cinematic picture: 2 epidurals, a serene environment, a quick recovery, and the couple leaving within 2 hours to return to Frogmore Cottage. It sounded calm, controlled, perfect. But anyone familiar with childbirth, especially inside private hospitals like Portland, could see the cracks forming immediately. Because Portland Hospital isn't a spa, it's a medical facility with strict recovery procedures, especially for high-risk mothers. And those 2 epidurals, doctors say that's nearly impossible. Epidurals are continuous, not something you double up like painkillers. So, if Harry's account was accurate, then either medical protocol was ignored, or the story was never meant to be medically believable in the first place. What began as a fairy tale birth was about to unravel into something far stranger, a story that no longer fit inside the royal script. Here's where it gets interesting. Harry's account claims Meghan gave birth, recovered, and was home at Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours. But the drive from Portland Hospital to Frogmore alone takes roughly an hour, sometimes more. That means everything: delivery, recovery, observation, discharge would have had to fit inside a single hour. Add 2 epidurals into that window, and the story collapses completely. Because every woman who's ever received one knows you can't walk, let alone leave immediately after. You wait for the anesthesia to wear off, your vitals to stabilize, and your blood pressure to return to normal. And that's just under ideal conditions. If, as sources claim, Meghan was experiencing high blood pressure or early signs of preeclampsia, she wouldn't have been discharged at all. It's the kind of timeline that belongs in a fairy tale, not a hospital logbook. And yet, it's the version the world was told, sealed, signed, and delivered with royal polish. Some say that's when the narrative stopped being about medicine and started being about management. Every medical record points to one fact: Meghan's pregnancy was geriatric, the clinical term for expectant mothers over 35. That's not an insult, it's a risk classification. It demands tighter monitoring, fewer variables, and full-time medical supervision during labor. So, when Harry described birthing balls, candles, and a wellness retreat setup, doctors everywhere blinked in disbelief. That's not how high-risk births are handled. According to the Hospital Insider, Portland doesn't host spa births for mothers flagged as high-risk. The setup Harry described, warm lights, water tub, birthing ball, would never have been approved for someone under close obstetric monitoring. It's not carelessness, it's protocol. And then came the mention of preeclampsia, one of the most dangerous complications a mother can face. For anyone who's lived through it, the treatment is grueling. Magnesium sulfate, blood pressure control, and around-the-clock monitoring, not scented candles. So, if Meghan truly suffered from that condition, as has been suggested, her reported 2-hour turnaround from delivery to discharge isn't just improbable, it's medically impossible. Stay with Royal Daily Report for the shocking conclusion. Subscribe now to never miss our investigations. By the time you reach the end of this trail, the pattern becomes undeniable. Every version of Archie's birth, from the epidurals to the candles, the secret elevator to the 2-hour homecoming, seems touched not by truth, but by theater. Tom Bower called it out as lies. The Hospital Insider backed it with lived experience. And between their accounts lies a void the palace can't seem to fill, a silence louder than any denial. Maybe the contradictions aren't mistakes. Maybe they're designed. Because when you build a royal image on precision and grace, you can't afford messy details. You can only afford edits. And so perhaps Archie's birth wasn't meant to be remembered as it was, but as it needed to appear: flawless, magical, controlled. But beneath that polish lies the heartbeat of something raw, a story that doesn't fit, a script that doesn't sink, and a truth that refuses to stay buried. Because if the fairy tale doesn't line up, then maybe it was never a fairy tale at all. Maybe it was the kingdom's most ambitious rewrite, one where birth, age, and image were all drawn in pencil, waiting for someone brave enough to tilt the page toward the light. And now that light is here, because once you've seen the lines beneath the ink, you can never unsee them again. That's all for today's groundbreaking investigation on Royal Daily Report. Tom Bower's findings have exposed inconsistencies that raise serious questions about Meghan's age and the birth stories we were told. If this investigation opened your eyes to the truth, make sure you subscribe to Royal Daily Report immediately. Hit that like button, share this video with everyone who needs to see these facts, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm your host, and this has been Royal Daily Report. Bringing you the investigations mainstream media won't touch: the documents they won't show you, and the truth that demands to be heard. Turn on notifications so you're first to know when we release our next explosive investigation. Until next time, stay informed and keep questioning the official narrative.